First, latest on Reading Football Club. We know about winding up orders, unpaid tax bills, unpaid wages, possibly a points deduction, even now we've been relegated to League One from the English Football League. Still no manager. It's not going that well. We know that Reading Borough Council has written to the Culture Secretary to ask to talk about the behind-the-scenes issues at Reading Football Club because of the importance that football clubs play in the culture of a town. Now, the Bracknell MP, James Sunderland, is also contacting Lucy Fraser, the Culture Secretary, about the future of Reading Football Club. Hi, James.
Peachy, good morning.
Good to have you on. You're meeting with Lucy Fraser, the Culture Secretary, in a few days.
Yeah, I'm meeting her on the 11th of July next week. It's an important meeting. Why? Because Reading Football Club is important to Berkshire, it's important to Reading. It's the only league club, as we know, in Berkshire, and it's got a proud history, and the fans have been suffering for too long. We've got to try and sort it.
Right. What on earth could Lucy Fraser, the Culture Secretary, do, though, to encourage a Chinese billionaire to behave differently?
Well, what's interesting, of course, is the fact that the club is privately owned, so there is a limit to what the government can do. But you'll be aware of the football governance white paper going through at the moment. There may be something in that. I won't know what the art of the possible is until I speak to her. But, we know there's going to be an independent regulator with teeth. We know that clubs will have to be more sustainable by law. Club heritage has to be protected. Clubs need a licence, will need to be tested for prospective owners. So I suspect that the football white paper, when it becomes law, will be really good as a preemptive measure for when clubs go bad in terms of the owners. But in this particular case, there may be something, it could be used as a test case perhaps, but ultimately government should take an interest in this. This is important to Reading and the fans, and we're going to try and do something.
Because there are already tests in place, aren't there? The Premier League and the Football League already try to look into people who want to buy football clubs, and in this case, although the Premier League wasn't too keen, the Football League allowed the purchase. So that's already there. There are already sanctions if things go badly wrong behind the scenes. That's why we lost 6 points. That's why we were relegated. So those things exist. I'm interested in how you can legislate or govern the cultural aspect, the fact that this can't be run as an ordinary business because people care too much about it.
Yeah, I mean, there are measures in place at the moment, but what the white paper will do when it becomes law is just enhance those powers. So, for example, there will be written into law a minimum standard of fan engagement, fans serving on boards. It might be possible to use the Localism Act of 2011 in terms of safeguarding assets of community value. There could be financial powers coming in as well. But ultimately, when you sanction clubs by deducting points, you actually harm the fans. And as we know, last season, the points deduction resulted effectively in the club being relegated because they would have stayed up without those points being deducted. So for me, it's frustrating as a football fan, and I'm obviously a big fan, as you know. What's frustrating for me as a fan is that it's the fans that ultimately suffer and the players when owners renege on their responsibilities.
It feels a little bit long-term, this. I mean, that doesn't make it bad, but it feels like a discussion about, rules that might be changed and laws that might be passed in the future that won't make a blind bit of difference to Reading Football Club now.
Well, I mean, don't forget, no government can regulate every aspect of people's lives, and, governments, in my view, should be operating with a light touch. I mean, I'm a low-state, low-tax, low-regulation conservative, and that's entirely appropriate. But in this particular case, I think there is a reason for doing more football governance. It may not indeed help Reading in the short term because Reading is going to have to sort out its own house, sadly. I mean, I'd want to see the owner sell to somebody that's going to invest in the club. It's got to go back up. It's got to go back into the Premier League. That's where it belongs. And, I'll do what I can, whatever I can, albeit as the MP for Bracknell, to support those fans and get their voice heard in government.
James, thank you. James Sunderland is the Conservative MP for Bracknell.